So I'm here with the president of the Chelmsford Historical Association, Becky Warren. Thanks for talking with us, Becky.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you for being here, and thank you for being here for Farm Fair. It's a great day for the Historical Society to celebrate Chelmsford's agricultural past. You know, it's how Chelmsford got started, and it's the early history of Chelmsford, so the Society is here to help tell that story.
Yes. And what is this, about the 12th year of the Farm Fair, something like that?
It is, thanks to Bernie Reddy having a vision of saying, you know, we should promote and celebrate what this town used to be like. And there are little vestiges of that old Chelmsford, and this is one of those places at the Historical Society where people can kind of step back in time, walk into the Barrett-Byam Homestead, and get a little sense of what it was like for the early Chelmsford residents.
And the Barrett-Byam Homestead is on Byam Road here in center South Chelmsford off of Route 27. And about how old is this homestead?
So about the early 1700s. What we had thought originally, it was in the late 1600s. However, we think there was another building somewhere nearby, because back in that time, they would build a house and move it or take it down and put it somewhere else, and that was normal. So as far as we can tell, very early 1700s. We've got the low ceilings, we've got all the fireplaces. So for the building itself, it is historic. It's changed over time, inside and out, but we do have some of the essential elements of that early homestead, like our fireplaces and these low ceilings.
And this is where the Chelmsford Historical Society board meets, right? Here in the Barrett-Byam Homestead?
That's correct. So the society was formed in the 1930s by residents of town who said, you know, we should be preserving our story of Chelmsford. Not just agriculture, but everything that has to do with Chelmsford. But they didn't have a home, and they had their collections in family homes at first, and then the Adams Library was where the Historical Society was based. Oh. And then in the 1960s, the folks that owned this house that we're in today, they were going to move, and they donated it to the Historical Society, and it's where our home has been since the 1960s.
The family donated the home to the Chelmsford Historical Society. Do you know the name of that family, so we could, maybe their descendants are here?
Sure. Mr. Albert Murray, the Murray family, is who owned the house at the time, and they were kind enough to appreciate the history of Chelmsford, and they've got beautiful grounds. There's quite a bit of acreage here as well, so it wasn't just one of the main historic houses in town, but also with enough space to remind you of the open space that Chelmsford used to have.
And earlier, just a few minutes ago, you gave us all a tour of this Barrett-Byam Homestead, and I think you mentioned some of the families that lived here for 100 years at a time?
Sure. So we call it the Barrett-Byam Homestead because the Byam family lived in this homestead for 100 years. Wow. And then the Barrett family lived in the homestead for 100 years. And then a few owners changed, and then the Murrays got it, and then it's been the home of the Chelmsford Historical Society ever since.
And speaking of historical, I believe your family, the Warren family, has been in the United States and here in Chelmsford maybe since what, the 1600s?
So the 1630s, the family arrived in Massachusetts anyway, or to the colonies, and then did own land in Chelmsford a little bit after that time. And where my family is situated today, on the farm, an old farm in town, that was a wedding gift that came into the Warren family in 1699. So we've been here for over 300 years.
That's fantastic. In fact, I live right near your land, I believe. You're off of kind of Boston Road and Fay Street, right? In between there, 20-something acres or whatever?
So it's about, the whole area is about 65 acres. Wow. With 3 different homes, 2 historic homes and 1 new home attached. And the Warren family still gets out there and bales hay in the summertime. So it is still producing an active farm at the moment anyway.
Wonderful. Was Warren Avenue named after someone from your family?
That is correct. That was owned by Warrens at the time, and over time they had a lumber business, so they would buy land and cut down the timber and make timber into, so cut down the lumber and make the timber. And they didn't need the land anymore. So they sold it off. And so we started having the early developments in the town of Chelmsford at that time.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us, Becky. You're currently, as I mentioned before, the president of the Chelmsford Historical Society, and you've been active with the society for many, many years, right, Becky, or a few years?
So I got introduced to the society in 1984 and became on the board at that point, and have done a variety of things. So I'm very proud to be the president at this time, and know that Chelmsford's history with the whole board and the residents of Lowell are protecting that history.
And you're doing a fabulous job, Becky. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Becky Warren, thank you.
You're very welcome, and my pleasure.